Oh, nothing going on. Oh, it's the two-time Moxies. Moxies, what'd you play today?
I went back to my patented Warriors. I brought them back. I placed second. I was first after Swiss, undefeated, and then I ended up losing in finals to relinquished Chaos. It was a great day and great tournament.
You're on the stream all day.
Yeah,
man.
I know.
It was
I was so bad.
You were at the top table chilling.
It was good. It was fun. So I played Warriors. I took inspiration from the main deck from Jonathan LeBounty, one of my teammates on Rampage. Basically, my main deck is basically just a copy of the deck that he's been doing really well with in War League and in tournaments. So you got your BLS, obviously, best card in Warriors, best card in the format. You got 3 Blade Knight, which self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
I went down to 2 Kaiku. I've been debating this type of thing, like if I'm going to do 3 Kaiku or if I'm going to do 3 Blade Knight. I decided because I'm going to play the extra dark being Spirit Reaper that I liked this ratio better. So I did 3 Blade Knight, 2 Kaiku, 1 Spirit Reaper, and then you just got your staples, you got your Breaker, you got your Suzuki. Everyone knows what these cards do. Donnie Z, the Big Dad. Big
Daddy Don. Let's go.
Work for me today.
Yes, dude.
The Lady, the Exiled, the Tribe, Mr. Swordsman, and main decked Magician of Faith, which again put in so much work for me, but at the same time, there were so many people throughout this tournament that post-board were keeping in Mind Cons or Nox, and this card was just getting wrecked sometimes. I even, at one point, sided it out because people were so bringing in so many Nox versus me. I was just like, what is happening? I'm just gonna side it out.
That's the Moth effect, man.
Yeah,
that's the Moth
wild.
effect.
So it's not the most interesting lineup for monsters for Warriors. It's just based on the success that Jonathan LeBounty's had. It's a great main deck.
Yeah, it's always solid. Like lists like this, like especially like the monster lineup, is always solid. Like it
does its job. It attacks. It puts pressure on the field, and then it also has longevity with Reaper and with Magician of Faith because. The amount of times I flip Magician of Faith, get another Graceful Charity, get a Rhoda for a certain situation, get a Mystic's Space Typhoon so I can go for game, or the Reaper in one of my games, I don't remember which round it was, but my Reaper stayed in face-up defense for like 10 turns and let me get back into the game because of that. So it's a pretty strong lineup. I'm very impressed with this all day. And then for spells, you just have your classic, you have your Augury, which you're trying to draw all the time. Unfortunately,
Ulti, by the way.
It's very nice. Unfortunately, I didn't draw it when I needed it in Finals Game 3, but your other Trinities, your classic, your 2 Noblemen, 2 Rhoda, you have your Snatch Steal, Premature Burial, and more classics, your Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon, and then the interesting choice is I decided to play 1 Book of Moon. I went with that. It was debating that or Smashing Ground. I decided to do Book of Moon just because I wasn't exactly sure how the meta was around this area of the country. So Book of Moon gives you versatility against a lot of other decks, helps manage some awkward situations. So I decided to main deck it, and it was good. It was great all tournament.
In hindsight, would you have done Smashing?
For this exact tournament, no. Yeah. I think I would prefer the book. There was a lot of weird decks out there that I would have preferred the Book of Moon. I actually didn't even play Warriors one time this entire tournament. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, there was a decent amount of Warriors too, to be honest, but I just never played a mirror match ever. That probably helped a lot. So that's just the spell lineup. I should have put this the other way. Whatever. And then your classic traps. You got your 3 Solemn Judgments. The staple in the deck.
Yeah.
I went with 2 Trap Dust Shoots. I decided I wanted to play 2 Dust Tornado, so it was between 3 shoots or 2 and 2. But because I'm not exactly sure how the meta was at this tournament, I wasn't quite comfortable doing 3 this and 1 Dust Tornado. So I decided just to do 2 and 2, just to cover my bases a bit more. I never really had any issues with the ratios. I usually drew the one that I needed. And then 2 Sakushi Armor. I debated playing 1, to be honest, but the card just gets you out of a lot of pinches. Plus, against rogue decks and random decks, and I played this one guy in round 7 of Swiss, so the final round, and I also played him in top 4. He was playing an Earth aggro deck, and the Sakura armors were putting in so much work. So I'm glad I decided to keep the 2. Smart. And then just your classic, you got your Mirror Force, your Call the Haunted, your Torrential Tribute, and your Ring of Destruction. All great cards. Everything was good for that.
Solid. Just consistency.
Just super consistent. I didn't brick. I didn't brick one time this tournament. I didn't have the greatest hand sometimes, but every hand I had this tournament was playable. There was no actually no, there's one time where I had 5 monsters and 1 spell and trap card, but that's fine. That's gonna happen sooner or later. But overall, I didn't really break that much. Then for the side deck, I decided I didn't want to play Spy in the side deck. I didn't want to add. I'm glad I didn't too, with how many people kept in Nox and Minecons and stuff. I decided I didn't want to have my side deck space be too committed to that. I wanted something I could be super aggro with, and I decided that 3s on Byra were going to be the correct ratio for me.
Nice.
Siding them in against the mirror match, against other aggro decks. It's just a really, really strong card. It put in so much work. This card was insane versus the Earth aggro guy. It was always putting just mad pressure on him because of his monsters just being lower than this. So I'm very happy with these 3s on Byras. Yeah, I'm just not a big Spy-sided person. I would prefer this, and that's what I did. It was great. I went to Wangu, just a generic card, good against most decks. It put in crazy work against the Reasoning Gate and the Stein deck guys. I played 1 Reasoning Gate and 2 Stein people, and it was doing its job. It was stopping me from getting killed. It's just a great card that has good coverage against a lot of different types of decks.
Right.
And because the Warrior main deck and side deck necessarily isn't the strongest against Goat Control, Chaos Control, Scapegoat, whatever decks. This helps a lot with that. It's good against Burn. So I kept that in. And then I went with 1 Mobius. You could do 2, but the problem with doing 2 is because you're not playing Spy, you don't necessarily have the easiest engine to be able to consistently use Mobius. Plus, I didn't want to do 2 Mobius and this next card, which was Chaos Sorcerer.
Wow.
I didn't want to commit 2 Mobius and 1 Chaos Sorcerer to the side deck, so I decided just to do 1 Mobius with the 3s on Byra, and then Chaos Orc sided because I'm doing 3 aggro darks in the side. It's really powerful, especially post board, because a lot of people post board side deck Battle Traps versus Warriors. So you're going to summon a Blade Knight, summon a Kaiku, whatever it is, and you're going to attack, going second, attack into their monster. They're going to flip Saku. Oh, okay. And that's going to continuously happen throughout the match, and they're going to help fuel your card. So it's going to make making Chaos Sorcerer really easy to get out. Unfortunately, I never drew it. Every time I sided it, I never drew it. So I can't really tell you if it was good or not. I never got to play it once, but I do think it's really strong post board.
Right. It sounds super strong in theory as well.
And then I also sided 1 more Magician of Faith. Going first, I wanted to have another option for cards that I can set and put more pressure on the opponent. So I decided to side a second Magician of Faith. So yeah, basically anytime I went first, I brought in another Magician. This card is just so good in this format. It's almost turned into the point where every deck can just play aggro and just play Magician of Faith because it's just that good.
Yeah.
So that's been great. So that was the side deck monster lineup, and then because I played the 1 Book of Moon, I decided to side the Smashing Ground. Smashing Ground again put in work because against these Reasoning Gate and Stein Gate and whatever, sometimes they flip Royal Decree, so your back row is useless. So you need cards like this to out Jinzo or whatever. Or against aggro decks, they might put their own Zombiras out, or Kinetic Soldier, or Gorilla, whatever, and you need easy access to be able to out monsters. So I decided the Smashing Grounds. And then decided Mind Control. That's pretty self-explanatory. Depending on the type of matchups you get against like Chaos Turbo, you can Mind Control them. I didn't side deck it too many times because a lot of people were taking out a lot of their monster lineup to bring in Zombira and Kinetic, so it wasn't really that good. It's usually better against the people who only side deck a couple beaters and keep all their back row. So then it's okay, and it's just an out to Chaos Monsters. And then one Mystic Walk for burn. I didn't play any burn this whole tournament, but it's there for time or slash if I did play burn. Just a good generic removal card.
Love our walks.
We do love walk. And then we go with a third Dust Tornado from when I go first. To match with that, I also sided one Zing.
The Zing!
The big Zinger. I love this card.
Yes.
I'm known for this card. This is one of my favorite cards that helps warriors generate advantage. You don't actually generate advantage from it, but it puts you in game states where you can just go extremely aggressive. My top 16 match, Game 3, I ended up zinging his back row, and he couldn't do anything about it, and then I was able to just gain advantage from my monsters and solemn anything that would either stop this or make an impact on my field, and the zing just put in work. And I love this card, especially when they don't expect it. So, and then it's funny because after they did this, my next round opponent ended up seeing me use this card. So when I played him, he was setting one back row. So I actually didn't side this in and then just brought in this, because what ends up happening is when people see a zing, people just don't want to be zinged. It's like one of those cards in the format where you're like, I just don't want to be zinged.
Yeah.
So you'll just set one card. I'm like, okay, you can set one card. I have 3 Dust Tornadoes and an MST. Go for it. That's fine. I'll pop your back row and then just attack you to death anyway. So it's just good. And then I sided one Widespread Ruin. I decided to do this over third Saku for random decks that could pop out a King Dragoon or something, and just in general it helps keep my opponent on E, like they're not quite sure what my ratios are. If I have more Widespread, more Saku, they might be thinking I'm bringing in multiple Sakus and multiple Widespread, so it just gives me a little bit extra flexibility. So I decided to do the one Widespread, and then last but not least was a compulsory evacuation device, because I don't think Decree is very common in Chaos Control and Go Control anymore. So I think Compulse is really, really good. It's also just good against some random rogue decks, because being able to compulse their monsters back to their hand can really just completely screw up their turns, their FTKs, their OTKs, whatever they're trying to do. This card can stop that. So just a generic good card. I'm a big fan of Compulse, so decided to side it.
Perfect, man.
That's the deck. It was a great tournament. I had a great time.
Absolutely, man. If you were to make any adjustments, knowing what you know now coming into it, do you think you would have made anything different?
I think I would have sided a little differently, because it's hard to say, because again, I didn't play against a certain types of decks, so some of my cards on my side didn't get used. The main deck I wouldn't change. Probably the side deck I might look into again. But overall, I made a couple missides during the tournament that I would want to clean up for the future, but playing all day straight,
it's killer.
Yeah, I did make a couple mistakes that was unfortunate, but that's okay. Other than that, no, the deck ran great. I was very impressed that Warriors were able to be that consistent and just win every single time. I was in some really bad spots sometimes, and the deck just clutched up for me.
Just pulled through. Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for sharing the deck, man. Do you want to give any shout-outs before we go?
Yes, I do. I alluded to it earlier, but I want to give a shout-out to Labounty, Jonathan Labounty, one of my teammates on Team Rampage. This is his main deck that I've been using. It did incredible. He's a great friend and a great duelist. Also, Ivan Rizito, because I talk to him a lot. He's another great player. I talk to him a lot about everything. All of my teammates on Rampage and on my War League Discord, or my War League team, Elite 4, all of them were super supportive. I was getting lots of messages. I was super thankful to all of them. And shout out to Marcus Hayden and to Fancy Diesel, the two of them. They came here, I hung out with them, they were super great, talked theory with them, had a great tournament. All the people in War League, they're great, all the community, and a special shout out to Rabid. He was incredible for myself during the weekend while I was here, super nice. We talked about theory, game, life. It was just super fun to talk to about everything. Shout out to the city of Chicago. This is my first time visiting. I loved it. It's a beautiful city. I was super happy to come. And shout out to Mr. Filmmaker himself, Bluetooth. He did a lot of work on the stream back there when we were doing it. Did the best he could with some of our lighting issues that we had here. And on top of that, not only was he doing all the stream stuff, but he also topped the event himself, got top 8, so that we'll shout out to him too. Other than that, no, I'm good. Thank you all to everyone.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Enjoy the deck. Great deck.